cheap furniture out of used tires and also fishing net. And since the site is next to the Bosphorus, there was lots of these fishing nets. And also in Istanbul, we have this boom of automobile car industry, and we have lots of used tires which you can buy for nothing. I mean, it's like for free. And then we went to this guy who introduced us this fishing net as an architectural material, how we can use them, how we can cut it, how we can use it. And it was very full of information, actually.
This is a place where fishers shop all the time. They buy their nets. And then we covered all the used tires with these fishing nets and turned them into a landscape element.
So the people were like, they were according to the shadow, I mean, according to the place, movement of the shadow, they could move all this furniture and transform them into different things, because they are very lightweight, easy to move, and etc. But, and of course, children, they were like very much more imaginative than us to use them. And there were lots of also events happened in Garden of the Istanbul Modern. These are the photos from these events and performances. This is the second project. It's called Pray for Rain. This time the main actor was rain, another very important actor in the city after the sea in Istanbul. So this was the site. You see this red wall, advertisement wall. And for us, it was a very difficult project, because this was something that you look at. It's not something that you can inhabit, because it's not on the street level. On the street level, it's a car park, but in the like after 3 meters, then we have this site, this corner, to make. They asked us to make an installation here.
And it's mainly an art project. Before us, always artists were invited to design something or put an installation there, and after us as well. So we were, I think we were among the
only architects invited. Invited. And most of the projects before us were like two-dimensional. Also, this is one of them, the one before us, mostly like graphical projects. But so we started to think about what we can do on site. It's a very difficult, for us it was very difficult, because you can inhabit, you can make a physical contact with, I mean, you can't inhabit there, you can touch it, you can't, you have to use different senses. And that time, I think it started like 2015, we had these massive rains, like as if we are like in the tropical zone.
Because of the climate crisis and its effects in Istanbul, like in most of the cities around the world. In the last 5 years, we had these huge floods in summertime. So it was really unexpected at the beginning. But then the city got used to it, and every summer we started expecting for these floods of rains, and it became kind of a disaster in many cases and conditions.
And always it's like it was like blaming the rain
or the nature,
or the nature,
or the climate.
Yeah, exactly. But actually it's not like this. Of course, you know, it's because of the lack of infrastructure and uncontrolled developing and etc. So the name of that's why the name of the project is Pray for Rain. It needs rain to be altered to start shifting, changing. So this is a sunny day, how it looks like. Of course, this is a rendering for the competition phase. And this is when it rains. So when it rains, there's a very simple system. There is this water collecting pipe, existing pipe over there, and we collect the rainwater. And then the water tank is filled, and with the gravity, it goes down, and this whole system goes up. So it's like a continuous loop. Then there is the sun, and the water tank pours out, and then system goes back. So for this moment, the project needs rain. So that's why the project is called Pray for Rain. Anyway, this is like after the rain. You see, I don't know if you can see it, but now the water is pumped out of the tank, small tank. But it's a very also unexpected kind of like someone is peeing on the cars. So it's like always made a surprise for the audience. And we used, we made a really deep research for this stripes, because it was difficult to find a material which can be very elastic, which is resistant to sun, rain, I mean outside conditions, and also cheap, because there was lots of these kind of materials. And then we ended up with the, what's the English word, the underwear elastic thing, which is used for textile, for men underwear, the red one. It was extremely cheap, and it's extremely elastic and extremely robust. So this is the system, how the movement is happening, because it must be like both horizontally and also the vertically movement. And this is how the system, you see the water tank and you see the water pipe, existing water pipe there. And this is how it works. So not only with the rain, but also with the wind, all these stripes, they shake, and it's like a continuous movement at that corner. So it's not like a static surface, it's more like a dynamic surface, which is altered by different forces.
And this one we will be showing now is...
it's only not constructed project. It will be constructed in a few months.
And we are working on it still. And it's an installation for the Istanbul municipality's new climate museum that is supposed to be opened, I think, in the next month. And
it will be opened in a formerly like a gasometer industrial area, which was used to distribute electric energy to the city. But it was closed for like more than like 80 years. And now they want to transform it into energy and climate museum. So for this project, we were like trying to make a research again about the city, about the infrastructural problems which causes these climate problems. And one of the very recent things, this is the site, by the way, that we are going to build the project. And one of the biggest issues right now in Turkey is this import of waste, mostly from the Europe. So this is Turkey. It's the biggest country, which imports waste from Europe. So this is a distribution of the tons of the waste. I think we are the first, and then Germany comes, I guess. And this is because after China stopped importing waste from the world, and most of the Asian cities, actually the network has changed, and Turkey became one of the most important actors of importing waste. And this is the graphic showing from 2004 to 2019 the amount of waste that we import from Europe. So it's like going up, 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 and up. And also, this is what is recorded. There is also a lot of import which they don't record. It's like illegal import. So it's something like 500,000 tons per year, and only 1% of this waste is recycled. The rest is burned or dumped, actually, and it's an extremely big problem for some of the cities, because they take this waste to, an empty land, and it starts to make a lot of problems. So anyway, and this is the Istanbul case. Actually, we import and also we produce a lot of plastic waste. Like in Istanbul, we produce like 6,000 tons of plastic per day. And this is something like 60 square cubes, which means that every minute we produce like 4.16 tons of plastic waste. So I'm telling all these numbers, and that they don't mean anything to all of us, I guess. That I think this is one of the biggest problems, because for all these kind of surveys and research, there are always these big numbers and some images, and you look at the image, you try to understand the bigness of the number, but you always get those. So we decided to bring this number and amount of the plastic to the side so they could be visible. So we can say that, okay, every minute we produce this plastic in Istanbul. So when you see it, maybe we are more convinced that how much we consume, how much we produce waste, and maybe we become more like aware of it. Yes, maybe. So this is the plastic that we are producing, and that are the first collages that we made to explain the project. So there will be these really plastic mountains, which are very visible on site, maybe with some smell. So people, when you go there, you'll understand that, okay, this is the amount of plastics that we produce every minute in Istanbul.
By the way, these plastics, they look like very kind of aestheticized, you know, the colors, but this picture, this is just
the real picture,
real or a regular moment from the plastic plastic recycling site of the municipality. So all these colors and types. This is
this photo is not from the internet, by the way. It's right from Istanbul's municipalities.
For the
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago for the research phase of this project.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, for us, this was incredibly interesting because when we plan, what we imagine when we go to that side is kind of like all this smelly bunk of waste. Mm-hmm. But then when you came across this, okay, because, you know, when we are doing these kind of projects, we always criticize ourselves at first, okay, let's not do something to aestheticize the, you know, the waste or the plastic, but it's already as an object, aesthetic object, like staying there on the site. So it was a weird moment.
Mm-hmm. And these are some other images. Hopefully, we are planning to build it like in a few months on site. And also there will be some exhibition parallel to this installation to inform people about again the numbers, how we produce waste, how we import waste, and why we import it. It's also a very big question.
And the name of the installation is 60 seconds because in order to make visible the amount of the plastic that is produced in 60 seconds in Istanbul. So this one, another installation, was in the middle of Istanbul, in one of the most touristic areas in Istanbul, in Ortaköy Square. It's just between two bridges that connects Bosphorus. And this photo, we took this photo in a weekday in the morning, but normally it's packed with people. It's packed with tourists trying to take selfies, but there is no public infrastructure to sit apart from the benches on the right.
No shadow, no planting, and etc. So again, it's an infrastructural problem, but this time in a different sense.
And then there was this flowers festival of, again, the municipality was organizing that. And then
we came up with the idea, how can we bring these flowers and this shadow on site without blocking this magnificent view of the Bosphorus. So we thought that maybe we can make a garden which is hanged, not like on the ground, because on the ground it will we need shadow, we need sitting elements. So we made this section. It's like again a kind of floating garden in the air, and people can sit under it, but also they can touch the garden by the help of the gravity. So this was a very simple system. Again, each pot is connected to other one, so they like balance each other. Normally it's very heavy, you know, because of the soil. It's almost like 40 kilograms per pot. But if you connect them to each other, you just need to solve the friction. And if you can force a little bit, then the system starts to move. And this is how it moves. And what happens when it moves? Actually, it's like always like an evolving and changing garden in the air. But at some point, it's flat and it's again visible. So this is how the system works. And this is Laura. Greetings to her, by the way. She set up everything, and thanks to her. And she was very involved with this project. And it's a very simple system. You hang the pot, you get the smell of the flower, and there's also some information about the flower or the plant, and then you put it back. So this is how the system works. And there is all these seating units and shadows under it. And it's also, the scale is also very interesting because it's also both at a very high point and also at a very low point. So apart from your scale, I mean, whatever your height is, you can touch it or you can have an interaction with the pots. Okay.
And this one was in another installation we did in Maxi. I think this was one of the most challenging installations we did because of the brief of the museum that they asked from us. They want to. So this was after Gezi.
Gezi protests in Istanbul. It was.
The project was in 2015, and Gezi was in 2013.
Gezi protests are like. This photo shows the Gezi Park, and the government wanted to build a shopping mall into this in the middle of this park. And after this decision, there was lots of protests, and people they occupied the park. And it was very interesting because normally the public space is something temporary. You go there, you do something there, but then you leave it and go back. But for the first time, it's like occupied. And after this Gezi, you know, there was this Occupy Wall Street or the protests in Hong Kong. They are like always trying to occupy the public space in order to show their protests. And Gezi was, for us, Gezi protest was very important for us because it's like a very breaking point for the perception of the public space in Istanbul and both in Turkey.
And it's the resistance for reclaiming public space. So, and the museum was, the creators they want to take the atmosphere of public space after Gezi, the atmosphere at that moment, into this museum building that is designed by Zaha Hadid. And this was for us a very difficult brief to respond. So, because, you know, this is kind of a very like finished and very elegant building, and from this chaotic city, and we love the city, by the way, but from this chaotic city, what could we take to this building that is going to represent the public?
Because there is always this very big risk of being artificial. So it was the first time that we were doing an installation in an interior, not a public space, but a more like controlled space. So at that time, also what we had on the street, all these barriers, because these are crowd-controlled barriers. But during that period of time in Istanbul, the police used it a lot to control the movement of the people, and also the municipality was using it in order to control this construction things. So here you see two layers of barriers. First is the police, and then second one is for the construction barriers. So it was like barriers and barriers. And then it was too many and it was there for such a long time that people started to have an interaction with these barriers. So they transformed it into like a public furniture. Use this as not like an obstacle, but more like to sit on it or to connect their facade on it. And this was maybe the most striking one, to dry peppers on it. So it became a part of the daily life, not like an obstacle. So we were very actually impressed with that use. And then maybe we thought that maybe we can bring these barriers into the museum just as how they are. Maybe we thought that maybe we can connect them with cable ties, not like with like construction material, but use the existing thing on the street. And
I'm sorry. The main idea was when we tried to respond to the question of how is the public life in Istanbul at that moment was, well, it was quite like, you know, if you try to walk from one point to another, it was impossible to do it like in a continuous way. There is always this obstacles of barriers, either for security or for construction, because that was a time that Istanbul was under a boom of construction, and these barriers were not only used by police, but it's also they're also used by construction sites. So whenever you see those barriers, they block the pedestrian flow on the street. So what we were thinking was to take these barriers from their context to this museum, but to use them in order to create another like barrier inside the museum, because our installation was planned to be located in the intersection of two main galleries of the museum. So we decided to make this huge obstacle of metal barriers, and then there was this very thin, narrow passage between the barriers that led the visitor to navigate through the museum. So it was kind of surprising in the middle of the museum to see all this huge metal mountain. But then it's also interesting to find to continue the way of the exhibition,
because the building was very like filled with all these nice curves, and it's like it's designed for to make your circulation more comfortable and more fluid. But this was something like completely like the inverse. It was like very sharp and unexpected. So yes, and this is another unexpected project. It's like an unexpected. It's called Unexpected Hill. It was in front of Burlington Gardens in London.
in Royal Academy of Art.
Royal Academy of Arts, and it was again an invited competition, and the museum was asking to make something inside the museum. But since we were in Istanbul, and the calendar was very tight, the program was very tight, we didn't have the time to get the visa, to see the site, and to come back. So that's why we had to do the project without seeing the site. And it was extremely difficult, of course, to understand the building without seeing it with the videos and photos. It was like a nightmare for us. And at the end of the day, we were always finding ourselves looking these Google Street views, what is happening outside of the building. So how people get into the building, how the people are starting the interaction with the building. And in each photo, you see there is a border there. There is a very small corner, and there's a border there, and people trying to sit on it and trying to have an interaction with that, but it was very difficult for them. So these are the Google Street views in different times. So in each photo, there was someone sitting there.
And these two projects, the Maxi project and this one, was on the same year. We did this first and the other one a couple of months later. And then they're both related to public space. And then because this is not on purpose, but then we realized that while we are looking at this site, we were just thinking with an Istanbul reflex, let's say. And we were thinking, okay, these guys, they're still on the street, but then why doesn't this museum turn this into an area where people can sit and, let's say...
Yeah, because the site belongs to the museum, but they don't use it. There's this border, and we don't know why there is that border.
Because because in London, it doesn't exist such a pop-up use of the pavement. as a public space, because maybe they don't need them because they have a couple of like
Big
gardens,
parks.
squares, parks, like in the 15 minutes walking distance. But still, in a lunch break, people, instead of walking 15 minutes to the park, they prefer to sit on the pavement and smoke or eat their sandwich, etc.
And then we decided to make something in the exterior in order to transform that leftover area into a public space which can be inhabited during the daytime, which is connected to the daily life. And the project is unexpected hill because it's something like a hill, so people can climb on it, sit on it, and etc. And it was made out of ceramics because the sponsor, the program was sponsored by Turkish ceramics, and that's why we were invited. By the way, there were like 4 British architects and 1 Turkish architect from Turkey, and so we had to use the ceramic for the installation, and it's not a very easy material to use in the exterior in the public space, so we were extremely anxious about it.
Because the installation was supposed to be inside, by the way. All other finalists, competitions, they suggested something
inside. So, and inside it makes sense to use ceramics, but in the exterior it was like there are lots of contradictions.
Slip on it, yeah. And London, you know, people get drunk and climb on the installation, and they could easily slip and fall. And it's very strict in terms of health and safety regulations. But then we won the competition, and we had to do it.
Yes, and it was very surprising for us because we were proposing to remove the boundary between the building and the street, and it is a like a listed building. We never thought that they would allow this, but somehow, and you know, British, they are very like conservative. Somehow they were convinced, and they convinced the municipality to remove this boundary, and then we were able to construct the project. And they started to climb on it, and we were again very anxious. It stayed there like more than 5 months, I guess, and every day we were like very anxious if somebody climb and fall and whatever, because there was no guards. 24 hours, there is no guard, there is no security and no control, no cameras and whatever. So everybody could do whatever they want on the installation.
Because even the parks, they locked the parks in London, let's say at 6 or 8 in the evening, but this one was like 24 hours freedom, and for us it was like all like a nightmare.
A very big health and safety issue. But anyway, nothing happened, and these are the photos that we really like. We collected them from Instagram, and this is what we were expecting actually, to be part of the daily life. For different, for like people with different age and different things, and at some point they transformed the street. They closed the street and made a festival for the first time in Mayfair because the installation was like very like a magnet collecting people, and there were lots of events happened around the installation. Yes, and now we jump to more like an architecture projects.
And I think this was the project on the posters of this event. It was in fact, this project has 2 legs. Let's say one leg is an interdisciplinary research project that we did in the university. We work in MEF University and in collaboration with Boğaziçi University with 3 different departments: architects, sociologists, and industrial engineering. Students get together from these 3 departments, and we were 4 tutors.
And it's about the Istanbul earthquake, anticipated Istanbul earthquake, and Turkey is like in between. In the middle of these earthquake faults, and actually it's very interesting that Arabic Peninsula is pushing us up and Russia is pushing back, so we are in the middle, and they constantly produce earthquake, and it also is like also the political issues being in the middle of these forces. But anyway, So this is the northern Anatolian fault, which is a very active fault, and it constantly produces earthquakes. And the last one happened in 1999 in a very close city to Istanbul, and the next one will be in Istanbul. And we know that it will happen for sure within 10 or 15 years. And it will be bigger than 7 magnitude. But anyway, even though we know it, we don't do anything about it, and things are getting worse and worse because Istanbul is becoming more and more crowded. So we have all these infrastructural problems, as we have told. And this is the number of the households after number of households with emergency sheltering needs after the earthquake. So we will need like 500,000 new temporary houses after the earthquake, and this map shows the distribution of it. And after this knowledge, we thought that what can we do about the earthquake? And normally we produce these shelters, yes, in Turkey, but they are completely like, they don't think about the infrastructure around it. They don't think about climate and other economical conditions and whatever. We use them and then they transform into other waste and trash. But also in the world, there are lots of these kind of emergency shelters. But we thought that if these designs can be an answer for Istanbul, because here in Istanbul, the biggest problem in the land is that we will be, the land will be totally blocked after the earthquake because of this building debris, and also because that we block these emergency roads with car parks. So these are all emergency roads that has to be open all the time, but we transform them into car parks in order to get money from them. So and also we are filling these gathering areas with private investments, with shopping malls and whatever. And we had almost like 500 gathering areas in 1999, but we now have only 80. This is another very big problem. So also the population is going up. And we are filling them with this kind of big investments. So what can be done? But we thought that, okay, we can't use the land, but maybe we use the water. So can water be a kind of hope for this catastrophe problem? And the good thing is that Istanbul is surrounded by the water. And there are lots of advantages of settling on water. It's empty for now. You don't need any infrastructural preparation on the land. There is no mud and etc. It's flat. And also the logistics is very easy because with the ships, you can bring a lot of very big amounts of infrastructure, amenities. And also there is no problem of ownership. It doesn't belong to anyone, it's public. So we try to investigate where we can settle. And also there is, of course, this tsunami problem, but we have some inlands which are protected from tsunami. And we decided to settle on this Golden Horn area, like a pivot place, in order to understand what we can do, how many amounts of houses can we produce there. And try to understand how we can bring these shelters with ships and etc. So this is Istanbul. And try to kind of make a projection of settlements on water. But one of the biggest problem is that this is our design in the office about these shelters is that first thing is that you have to set up them very easily on site. You shouldn't need a qualified manwork, and you shouldn't need a lot of time, because after the earthquake, you don't have time and qualified manwork. And also before the earthquake, they have to be stored very easily. So these things are foldable because when they are unfolded, it's only like 80 centimeters thick, and they can be stored very easily on factories and etc. And also can be transported very easily on ships. So this model shows how they are folding and unfolding. All the furniture inside it is like can be folded. And we put it on a concrete pontoon in order to float. And these are the basic rules for the construction. It's foldable, it's modular. You can bring different modules in order to create bigger or smaller units. And also it has to be sustainable, because after the earthquake, there will be no electricity, there will be no water at the beginning. So without any infrastructure, it should survive for some period of time. So this is how it's the distribution of the plan, the functions. There is a small kitchen, there is sleeping space, there is a small toilet with a bathroom, and also there is this living area. So these are some projections. And this video shows how it is folded and unfolded. So we had some sponsors for this project, Metal Yapı and Fibrobeton. We were collaborating with them, and so that's why we were able to construct the project. So we had the opportunity to construct it and float it on Golden Horn.
And it was exhibited in the Design Biennial.
Istanbul Design Biennial. And also it was exhibited in Ghent. So, of course, the prototype and Arles, yes, in France. And these are some interior renderings and the real thing. How the interior is. And this is the photo from the exhibition in Ghent. So the final thing is the chickens. So here the most challenging user for us. It cannot demand, it cannot give feedback, it cannot adapt, or it doesn't pay. So basically, if the chickens didn't like the project, they wouldn't get into it. So it was a very, again, kind of anxious design process for us.
And it was, we did this design for the art and architecture farm of a famous international artist and director, project. And in this art and architecture farm, he was imagining to have all these units, or either for animals or for people, all these living units to be designed by architects and artists. So our part was Chicken Club, and this was the first project of this farm that was realized. And so at the beginning, the main idea was, as Oral mentioned, in this anxious design process, was how to make a comfortable living area for the chickens, that they won't be, because for that moment they were living on the trees, so they won't be preferring to live on the trees, and rather than living outside, they would prefer to get inside this structure we designed. So we started to make a research on chicken habits, and then we realized that there's a great literature on how chicken lives and how they
breathe and how they survive during the day routine.
So chicken is an animal that has a very strict daily routine, and then we studied that daily routine, that what they needed for comfortable living. So we had this
12 diagrams which were very crucial. The first one is it had to be robust, because again that site is on an earthquake zone, first degree earthquake zone. So we use these triangles in order to create a very robust structure. And it's fully prefabricated on a factory and then brought on site. And these are the models that we made in order to understand the structure. There was no civil engineer involved in this project. It was like totally designed by us, and we, with all these models and prototypes, we try to understand the movement of the structure. So this is a very like a simple triangular structure. And yes, here there is the model. The good thing of being in the office is just you can show the maquettes very easily. Anyway, so we made with a lot of models with different scales. And the second very important thing was it had to be modular, because we were on a very remote site. We were planning to make it on the factory in a city close to Istanbul, and then we transported it to the very eastern part of Turkey. So if anything happens, we didn't have any chance to send a man from here to there in order to repair things. So it was a very simple construction. It could be maintained there. The other concern was it had to fit into the truck while we were transporting it. So it was, as I prefabricated on the factory and built on site in 4 days, in just 4 days. Very fast construction. Here you see how it is. It's like repetition of modules, because the client also wanted to extend it through the time. Maybe if he had more chickens, then he could easily add modules to the structure.
And I think apart from all the projects we had mentioned tonight, this was the only one that is not ephemeral. I mean, this was a permanent project, but still we see that there are many other things that we learned from all those temporary installations and all those small scale projects to imply on this one.
And as cleaning is very important also, you could be easily, so there is these boards which can be folded and unfolded again in order to clean the system. You see, when you open it, also the chickens could easily get out and get in from these openings. And socializing, both for people and both for the chickens. The climate was very tough there, because during the summer it's plus 40 degrees, and during the winter it's like minus 15. So during the summertime you need a lot of shadows, and during the winter time you need protection from the snow. So natural ventilation is very critical. The wind shouldn't be passing through the chickens. It should be passing through above the chickens, because otherwise they could get sick. So this is how it works. Above the section there are these two openings, so there's always constant airflow at the top of the chicken coop. And daylight control is very important. While they are incubating, they should be facing the north. The sun shouldn't be distracting them. So on the right you see the incubating boxes. They are not on south facade, they are on the north facade. Shadow is very critical, as I said. It provides a lot of shadow during the summertime. And again, it has to protect from the snow, and this is how it looks in winter. And protection from the predators is very important. That's why it is elevated, because otherwise the fox and wolves can dig under the soil and get into the chicken coop. So that's why it's elevated. And also snow is also important for the elevation. And there is always these nets to be protected from the birds, because both wild birds can get in and eat them, and also can bring infection to the coop. So nothing should be able to enter to the coop. That's why it's very critical. And this is very funny, because the chickens poo when they are sleeping. So if they sleep on top of each other, they poo on their heads. That's why this triangle structure allows to poo them on the floor, not onto their heads. So that geometry was also very critical. And ergonomic circulation is very important because you should think about circulation both for people and also for the chickens. For all these boards that are foldable are used to provide this kind of opening and closing surfaces. And it's, you see here, they get out and get in very easily. And there are always these very simple details to open and close these things, because it's like in every day it's like opened and closed a lot of times, and it's not like a very gentle opening. It's just open and allow it to fall. So the material has to be very robust. These are the details. And the main reason that we built this coop is to collect eggs. And that is the very critical thing. While collecting eggs, the human shouldn't get inside of the coop, because again, they can bring infections and they can disturb chickens. That's why it's like collecting from the outside. And it's, on the other hand, it's like a lottery. You open the box and you see, maybe you see an egg or not. So it's a little bit funny process to collect eggs. So this is the interior. They are very social animals. All the time there are these kind of interactions and fights. But it's been, I think, 2 years, and they look like happy. We cannot speak with them, of course, but none of them died, and like continuing to grow. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the talk, even if it was from the office. Uh, the fact that you could show the model was really nice, because it's the kind of thing that we lack when in the physical meetings. Yes, I don't know. Yeah, I have to say I appreciated a lot the attitude, and I'm happy to have the stories behind some images I saw, the floating projects, and this kind of how to anticipate a disaster. Now I think it's very yeah, it's a beautiful topic and attention you have on these projects. Thank you so much. I don't know if someone here in the audience has questions. Please use the advantage of being with us and not from home. They are very shy. They are not chickens, but they are very shy. And yes, and now I saw the. I have the feeling that it was a nice aperitif, as I said, no, before inviting you here and do something physically. I think that in the talk you demonstrated your ability to work from a distance, even on buildings or sites you did not have the opportunity yet to visit. And the place where we are now here in Brussels is an ongoing site. I mean, we got the keys of this huge site 2 years ago, and we start to refurbish it slowly but surely. And there is still a lot of things to think about and a lot of potential and to activate with the neighbors and with everyone. So you are on our list to do something with us physically, yeah. So I don't know, Orale Sevince, I want to thank you very much for this kind of boring exercise, being from home and not with us here. But it's it's a light in the night of these COVID moments. And yes, it was very interesting. And thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. And thank you for the people in the audience
To be
who
physically
to be
there.
physically there in these conditions. I think that's great to see them there.
Yes, and it's true that we have not much to offer them neither, because for COVID reasons the bar is closed. There's no soup. The speakers are from the distance. So yes, it's a you are heroes, guys. We love you.
Yes. Thank you very much, guys.
Take care in Istanbul, and yeah, looking forward. We keep in touch.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Live stream from home, if that works. And until Christmas, we will have every Thursday activities. I mean, unless of course it's not possible anymore starting from tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to show the website, but yeah. So next Thursday is Garage Pirate, a format we have here at Recyclart for many months now. We try really to mix up programs, publics, and formats. So it's a concert, it's music, it's food, it's a restaurant. I mean, it's soup. Not even soup. Not anymore. It used to be also a restaurant, but not these weeks. And Brecht Evans, you might know him. He's a illustrator. He's an artist. He makes drawings. And we invited him in the kind of in the architectural program, let's say. Even if of course there is no categories, no, at Recyclart. But he will give a talk about. He will read some text of Georges Perec in a talk called Petit regard furtif sur la ville, and he will speak about Perec through his own drawings. If you look at the website after his talk, it's be careful. It's at 7 next week, Thursday at 7, not 8:30, because after there are concerts of you see here Venice and Unsafe. And then we have 2 more programs before Christmas. What is greeting from London? I don't know if so. And yeah, important to know. Brecht Evans next week is coming physically, no? So he lives in Paris, but he will be able to come. So that's already another kind of interaction with the speaker. And then so as I said, every Thursday we try to keep open, even if with these limited formats. Check it with time. But on the 19th of November, we go to London with Amin Taha from Group Rock. I hope I can bring him. Let's see. Not sure. And last but not least, for this year, it's a performance around architecture in the wide sense of it. It's a performance the 3 of December. Brune Campos et Michiel Reinhardt. So that will happen here in the room. Et voilà. Merci beaucoup. Bonsoir. Thank you.